So we are back at the Corgi's house, and she got to run a little bit, and then she ate her breakfast, and now we're just chilling. She doesn't get why we're chilling on the floor, but she's okay with it because she's getting petted. um, Somebody is here, knocked at the door a little bit ago, and I carried her with me so she wouldn't go out. And the guy is here to bury the AT&T line, so it's making all sorts of weird noises outside that she's not sure about. I did not have a very good appreciation for how sketchy corgis are on everything that happens. Like that, she doesn't trust any of it. I've seen her do that with the family when she's been around, but with even more new experiences and scary noises and stuff, she's kind of entertaining to watch. But yes, today we will be going on a walk again. I can say that word here because she's not used to that one. My dogs would be going nuts if I said it around them. I, again, figured it's safer doing these not with the kids in the car because they have been showing their butts, particularly Taz. And he's real good about that now that we've had a house guest all week. But hopefully he settles down again because the barking is crazy. Did some writing last night, and I was thinking about how, like, it kind of makes sense that, like, I've talked about that dream that I had where the girl told me it was time to share the story I already had to share before more of my mission would be made clear. And I was thinking last night about how interwoven everything is in my life. It's like I do the YouTube stuff, and obviously this week's been kind of chaotic. If you've seen any of those, it's been a hot mess. And there's been a few that I thought about not posting, and it's like, no, I feel like I'm supposed to be posting, even if it sucks a couple days, that's all right. That's part of the process, right? So, and that's part of the point for me. But it's kind of interesting to me how when I focus on doing the thing that I know I'm supposed to be doing, which is doing a video every day, then it makes it easier to do the other part of what I know I'm supposed to be doing, which is writing. And I've been really good this week about setting at least an hour every night for writing. Like actual writing and not just journaling, but I still do the journaling too because that's important also. And then that's like as I am doing more of those things, it also gets me into the position where it's like I'm looking at the mess around me in like my room and my office. It's like I gotta fix some things, So I am thinking about switching my office and my bedroom back around, which the last time I did it, I had a much smaller desk. And I was able to move everything on my own without any assistance. This time, I have a really big-ass desk that I will have to have some assistance on. So, a little more of an ordeal on that end. And I really don't want to ask my dad for help. And my brother's getting ready to be out of town. So, we're just going to have to see how that all plays out. I told my brother I might need his assistance. I said, depending on how quickly I get everything moved around, I'm going to try to hold out for him to get back, I think. I might potentially need his assistance on moving the desk, and he said to just keep him posted, let him know. So, all right. Because I would kind of rather smash my head on the wall than ask my dad for his assistance if I can avoid it. But it's proving to be a little more of a priority. Like, I've been thinking about it for a few weeks. Because, I've talked about how my room gets really hot at night, but the other room, since it's winter anyway, it's my old bedroom, current office. It always used to be the coldest in the winter and the hottest in the summer. But the one that I'm in now, it gets up to like 78 in the summer with the AC on at like 71. I think it's even been at 70 before, and it still gets up to 78. And again, I think that's a me thing. So I think I just moving a lot of energy through my system, since that's been something I've been prioritizing, on just having my system clear. So yeah, so I'm able to do what I feel like I'm supposed to be doing. So I started thinking about doing that a while ago, but then there's still that point of, that's going to be, there's some kind of awesome bird up there. I can't tell if it's a hawk or what it is, but I mean, it would make sense that it would be a hawk, because those ones follow me around and it's just kind of soaring. But yeah, anyway, so I've been thinking about it, and then it's become a little more of a thing that seems like it's needing to be done, because my parents talk about their room gets so cold. And so they took a space heater in there, and I have a little space heater in the office because that's where my birds are, and I don't want to get too cold in there. And yesterday it like completely blew up one of the breakers, I guess, and my dad had to go like switch out some things to get it working again. But it was like my mom, her bathroom and my bathroom, they had night lights on, but you couldn't turn the actual light on. And then there were various other outlets that weren't working. So my dad fixed that yesterday, and then last night I went into my bathroom before I went to bed, and the light wouldn't come on again. It's like, uh-oh, here we go again. But nothing like blew to the point it had to be replaced. It just kicked off. So I went and unplugged the heater in the office, and I put my little thermometer thing in there to see how cold it got. And this morning when I went in there, it said it was 61. It's like, I could sleep in that happily. But I think adding me into it is going to change that whole thing anyway. But that would be a lot better. So yeah, so there's that. But since I unplugged it so they could have their heater running while they were in their bedroom, and then not have to worry about blowing anything else or having any other issues. So yeah, as I've been like kind of brainstorming this process and talked about it on here a little bit, I started thinking, it's like, okay, I got to move stuff, right? So where's the start point? It's like, one start point is I'm looking on the marketplace for smaller bird cages, because I have a double flight cage, which is really big for just 2 birds. And yeah, I had 4 cockatiels in it at one point in time, and then I sold 2 of the younger ones, and then the female died, so Buddha's on his own. And then the male Bork parakeet that I had in there also ended up dying a few weeks ago. So now I have 2. And yeah, like all the bird groups that I've been in and heard people talking about, they usually say like down to 50 is okay for them, as long as it stays above 50 for the birds in the house. It should be fine. But I just always set that little heater at like 66 or something, so it didn't get too cold. But 61, I'm pretty sure they were okay, because they were kind of a little fluffy this morning, but I turned the heater on, or I plugged the heater on, or plugged the heater back in, since the other one is unplugged and we don't have that issue to worry about. I don't know if this guy is going to need to talk to me again, so I might have to pause the video. But yeah, so I plugged that one in after I got in there and uncovered them, so it was warming back up. Yeah. And yesterday, I sent somebody a message about a bird cage, and I had to ask about the dimensions of it, particularly the wire spacing, because I have a cockatiel and a Bork parakeet, and I'm pretty sure if the spacing was an inch, they'd be able to get out. And I don't want that. I also have 3 dogs that are around all the time. So, yeah, we don't need them getting out on their own accord. But I sent her a message, haven't heard anything back yet. But that cage would be kind of handy, to be honest, and not because the cage is anything spectacular. It literally just because it's in Kokomo, and that's where my little elephant is that I still need to go pick up. And I think they were asking like $75 for the cage. Now, I don't get paid until my aunt and uncle get back, so there's that, but I will. So, I went ahead and sent her a message, and like I said, I don't know how long it's going to take her to get back to me, or if it's even still available. And I might find another one between now and then that I like better. We'll see. But I figure once I get them into something smaller, that would be easier to take outside and hit with the power washer. Double flight cage can't go out like that. It does not bend to that corner to leave my room and go down the hallway, out the front door, all that fun stuff. Plus, it doesn't have wheels, so that's a whole issue too. But I'm working on that. And, maybe I'll manifest something better, whether it's in Kokomo or not, one way or another. Okay, if I don't go to Kokomo after a bird cage and just go up after the elephant, then my dogs will go with me, and we'll just make a day of it. And if I do go after a bird cage, I'm going by myself, which is okay. I've made that trip a few times by myself. I figure I should probably call the ceramics place and before I go, just to verify that my friend didn't try to pick up my elephant as well, because she did make a comment after I said something about the second text message I got from them saying that it was done. And she said maybe she would go pick them up so they weren't just sitting there abandoned in the shop or whatever with all the other collection of things that got forgotten. So hopefully she doesn't do that, since we're not exactly talking now. If she does, and I find out I'll find out before I'm there, because I'm going to call them before I go. But yeah, then I figure go to the really good burger place one last time before I cut out, since it doesn't look like I'll have any reason to go up there beyond that. Yeah. So I was thinking about what I would do on shifting things, right? And I opened this one drawer, and it's like, hey, Super Nintendo and regular Nintendo from like a million years ago, and all the games and stuff that me and my brother had, and the controllers and all that fun stuff. And I sent him a message last night. I said, I'm tired of storing it. I said, I know at this point I'm not going to hook it up anymore. Just, if I were to, like the last time it was hooked up, I think I played it like a handful of times, and then it got unhooked and got put back in storage, because I'm just not into it like I used to be, right? So, and I feel like it's kind of the same way. So I sent him a message like, do you want it? I'm tired of storing it. I said, if you don't want it, then I think I'm going to ask Ben if he wants it. And he said to go ahead and ask Ben, so I did that last night. And Ben's stoked. He's got 2 kids, so, and plus, that's something that he loved in his day, because his day was our day. And so I'm pretty sure he'd get his kids into it, right? So I also have a TV that's been in the living room that is like a dinosaur. And it came from my grandparents. I don't remember what the story was there. I think they just got a more modern flat screen TV, and or smart TV. I don't know if they did or not. Probably smart, but I don't know. We try not to overcomplicate things with them, and it's been that way for years, but everything's overcomplicated. We tried to get them, regular phones that they could text on and whatnot, and they had no interest in that. My grandfather only ever wanted a flip phone, and now he's gone, so that's kind of irrelevant. And my grandma tries occasionally to make it a habit to have the phone with her now, since he's not around to get the phone if something happens. But yeah. But I had this TV that's just hanging out in the living room, and it's been there for probably like 3 years without being touched. It's just time to go. It's like, yeah, we kept it strictly for the Nintendo hookup to be easier, because you didn't have to have anything further to make it work with that TV, because it already worked with that TV. And so yeah, I get rid of that big ass TV that weighs far more than it should. And also the Nintendo stuff when I get home later today after we go on our walk and get that knocked out. And then I'm going to have to dust it off, because it's been in there with the birds, so it's very dusty. Even though it's been in a drawer that has been closed all the way, it's still dusty. Yeah. So that shit gets to go, and I'm thrilled. It's like just the idea of having this stuff leaving my space makes me really happy. And then it's like, okay, so what else do I have in here that I don't need anymore? And I will be working on that, figuring that out later today as well. So, yeah. So where I'm sitting, there is a register on the floor, and it feels like cold air is coming out of it, and I'm not really a big fan of that on my leg, even though I went jeans today, so that's new and unusual. After yesterday, I should have done it. Well, I did do it yesterday, but I already had the leggings on, and I put them over the leggings rather than switching out of them. And they were a little snuggly that way. But long underwear, yes. Big fan. So yeah. But still, this chilly air coming out of this vent, it's chilly. And even though there's a puppy on the other side of my leg, she didn't seem to care. But yeah. So I've been trying to navigate the steps for moving things, because before I had the idea, and it's like, obviously there are certain things you have to do first, like get the big things out of the way to be able to navigate the lesser things. So I was thinking that after I get the dresser in there cleared out, like it's literally just stuff that's been in storage. And like there's CDs in there because I had an empty drawer. I think I have some. No, the sheets got moved. I used to put like my extra comforter and sheets and stuff in one of the drawers, but then, since the other stuff gets so dirty or so dusty in there, it's like, with the birds. So those got moved to the one in my room. But if I'm going to move this big ass desk to my room and switch up the office, then that's going to have to go into the other room. So I was thinking one of my start points on that end would be to clear everything that is currently in the drawers out of the drawers, move my clothes over, and move that dresser into that room. Now it's going to be stacked really awkwardly for a while, like literally physically stacked up on top of things. Just kind of in front of it. So I have to be able to use the ones that have the good things that I want access to, but also have that where it's out of the way of the other room. And then I'm going to move the bookcase that's on that same wall. This is where it's going to get complicated because I'm going to have to move my nightstand forward to put this bookcase kind of behind it. It's a whole bunch of shifting. But it also gives me more ideas of things to write about. So last night, when I was working on my writing project, I open up a lot of the documents that I've been working on, and then open a new one, and then I just kind of like feel it out. It's like, okay, am I adding on or am I doing something new? And last night I ended up going with something new, and here's my cat friend. And she was looking at the weird noise thing too. Hopefully she doesn't static my hair again. Anyway, there's just going to be a lot of steps. Normally, I would try to do as much of it as possible at one whack, but I don't feel like that's really an option. I mean, like I said, I've moved all this stuff before. I moved the desk, but it wasn't by myself, which is very unfortunate because I really wish I could move that desk by myself. Then I wouldn't have to ask anybody for their assistance, but here we are. It's heavy. Although we do have a 4-wheeled cart that I'm going to put the pieces on to slide it down the hallway, aside from the hutch. That I'll handle. But see, I can't get too involved with like the bed and the desk until I'm good and ready, because I'm going to want somewhere to sleep until I'm ready to put it in the other room. But at the same time, got distracted by the guy with the stuff outside. When I go to move the desk, my bed's going to have to move into the living room. Technically, I could sleep. I could just make the bed in the middle of the living room, but that's a whole ordeal for everybody. Yeah. And yeah, I don't want to get involved with trying to sleep out there with my dogs, and then my dad gets up to feed his dog at 2. Or my mom stays up until 4 or whatever. It's like, yeah, I just don't want to deal with that. But it's like I'm really excited about all this stuff, and I couldn't figure out where I wanted to start on the writing at first last night. Ouch. And then I finally decided, it's like, okay, so why not start writing about the fact that I don't know what to write about? And really quickly, it started developing into its own thing too. But it feels like there's like, okay, I've talked about the chaos and having to release the chaos from my system, right? That's why everything, like I go to paint or whatever, it always starts with just like a chaotic mess until it starts becoming something else. It's like there's so much chaos I have to get out of my system before I'm able to navigate the more important and relevant stuff. Putting pieces together, connecting the dots and all that fun stuff. So yeah, it's like I feel like this week has been really bad about having a lot of chaos in my system that I've had to get out of my system, which has been through YouTube so far. And then, once I get that out of my system, then I'm able to kind of hone in a little better on on the things I want to write about. And like I said, it's never just, oh, I should write about this. If I have something come up like that, like I do have the occasional morning where it's like, I need to write something. I have 2 notebooks by my bed. I have my journal. And a lot of times, especially if it's like dreams or anything like that, then I will put it in there. If it's like organizing my thoughts about how to approach the moving project, I had to make a list of some things yesterday, that I wrote down of what I need to do to make this happen smoothly. So I got a list of that. So I have these 2 different notebooks. I mean, just depending on the nature of what I have to write. Or I have the text chain with myself where I will just send myself messages. And I watched my boss, if you call it that. I guess the lady that's in charge of me over at the place I do the respite care. She's probably wanting to know why I haven't been doing anything respite care wise, and it's been because my brother's kept the kid. There's been like 2 weeks where I've literally had nothing, no time with the kid at all, and just plus she's been sick this week, so yeah, that's a whole thing that I'll have to deal with, and I'm not going to deal with it right this second because obviously I'm doing a video. And 25 minutes in, not going to give that up to check on some text message that can wait. So yeah. But where was I? Oh, the notebooks. Oh, the texting myself. I think that's probably why I got distracted, because then I had an actual text pop up. Yeah, but it's like I was talking to my cousin last night. It's like I feel like it's just kind of a dance between these different things and getting certain things out of my system so then I can get the chaos out of my system, the chaos dealing with my dogs this week, and just tiredness. And once it's out of my system, then I settle in and start writing. Then it's like getting more specific stuff out of my system. Like I talked about, I think a few times, about the guy, the really sleazy dude that, said shitty things that I think got embedded in my system until it played out on a larger scale with the shit that my ex used to say, like that. It got to that point of him starting to say things like he should have raped me when he had the chance. And when that started in, it's like there was all sorts of rage at the fact that I was married to somebody who would eventually start saying that kind of shit. And I don't know if I've talked about it on here yesterday or if it was what I was writing about later, but there was a series of really shitty dating encounters that led up to my ex. And so like part of what I was writing about last night was just how it's like this one idea got embedded in my system years ago. But then that wasn't even the start point on like the greater scale of how I got into that situation. It's like there's been literally all these different events that have played into it. And it's like every time something painful has come up or something has made me doubt myself, it's like there's like a little piece of like sand embedded in my system somewhere along the line that would eventually become a much bigger issue. But it's taken a very long time for me to, put those pieces together because I've said many times, I always wanted to understand why people got into the positions that they eventually find themselves in and then feel like they can't get out of them, right? So the only way to understand that is to have a whole bunch of experiences that lead you to that. And, I feel like that's kind of what the writing project is at one level anyway. Of course, obviously there's that whole twin flame component that has basically given me something beyond myself to focus on at times when I've had to be working through the really heavy negative shit. And I have spent I don't, how many freaking hours have I spent crying on videos, for God's sake? I don't know. But I tell you what, like, just because I cried in all those videos, that's not the only time I've cried through things. I've spent a lot of time crying through my life here lately, just trying to make sense of things and piece together all the different layers. But then, it goes back to that, got to get the chaos out first and then start organizing the other stuff in a way that makes sense. And it's like somehow that's the greater story of what I'm trying to piece together. And thus, too, why it was so critical that, I finally got to that place back in 2023 where I committed my love life and my career life both to the universe to guide. And it's like those two things go so very hand in hand. It's like I can't disconnect them at all because it's literally, there's this twin flame thing that has given me this I guess hope of love thing to focus on and to be brave enough to navigate the heavy shit that I don't want to have to deal with. God, I know I commented on at least one other thing, but I think it might have been 2 other videos that I watched recently where I was talking about how I had that dream back in the fall that made me realize that I was the runner, right? And it's like, and the whole thing is I've always been running from myself and from stepping into the fullness of who I am because my entire life has taught me that I am too much for people, because I know there are a whole lot of people that cannot handle my energy, and that's okay. But it took me a really long time to understand that that is okay. And now that I'm kind of less inclined to try to be less me, I guess. It's more okay for those connections that aren't right to just vibrate right out the right out the picture, right? And I talked about last night in my writing too. It's like the whole deal with the guy that was the reason that the sleazy dude was able to ever even access my energy was I didn't take him seriously, but then there was still that piece of me that's like, okay, it was nice having attention for the moment, even though I knew that that was not somebody who would ever be capable of handling like the fullness of my emotions or whatever. And I know from personal experience, I know that that is a lot to ask of somebody because I've had to spend my whole life with them. And, that's why I've spent so much time throughout the years trying to bury, different parts of the different things that have hurt along the way. It's like, because if I really face it and feel all the way through it, that sucks. And sometimes it's really scary, and it's not, it's a question of, how are you going to make it through to the other side, kind of a thing. Is it possible? And well, nobody else has shown me in any kind of way that it's possible to do this, but that's where I'm also trying to navigate through things differently than anybody else, right? And there's a whole lot of emotion, y'all. I've been thinking about this a lot too. Like, okay, my abundance of Cancer placements, right? Cancer is a water sign, which is, those are the big feeling ones. And so my rising sign is in the first house. And I forget what the rising sign kind of results in, if you will. But my sun, moon, Mercury, and Mars are all in the 12th house. So it's like, these are like those really deep subconscious hidden things, right? And I've had to work through those kind of things and facing the scary shit that's buried way in there. And hey, it's all part of literally who I am and who I came here to be, because that is in my astrological chart. And I think there's something called a part of fortune, according to one of the apps that I have on my phone. I think it's Horus that talks about part of fortune, but I don't really know what it is. I've looked it up before, but as I've said, I collect lots of data, right? So it's like, there's no one thing that I know a whole lot about. It's like, I know all of these little things along the way, and I'm having to put them together and how they fit for me, right? So obviously my birth chart doesn't really, it affects it affects those that have to deal with me on a very close level, I guess. But otherwise it's like, this is all me having to work through this shit. And okay, like my Leo Venus, okay, I'm all fire and water. And mainly Cancer water. So yeah. So there's those things. And then, I think there's something with a midheaven in Aries, which has something to do with career related things. And my Venus is in Leo. I have, I think, Uranus, Neptune, and Jupiter in Sagittarius. And I don't know what else there is, to be honest. I think there's a couple air signs in there as well, but mainly it's fire and water. And mainly the feeling Cancer stuff. So yeah. But even that too, like, okay, the Leo Venus is the big thing. Okay, so somewhere along the line, I remember hearing, maybe I saw it on a meme or something, somebody said, if you really want a happy relationship, find somebody whose sun sign is your Venus sign. And then it's like, well, okay, my Venus is in Leo, so on the one hand, my ex-husband was a Leo, right? And that was very, very bad. But it was specifically, he wasn't the right one for me. Like, I've mentioned that so many times on here. It's like, there was a whole shit ton of things throughout my lifetime that, culminated in me ending up in that situation. But it's not one that I was ever meant to be in. And of course, there's that other level where at the same time, yes, because this is the story that I'm supposed to be navigating through and telling, because I now understand how people get into these kind of situations and feel like they can't get out of them. And I understand the fears about never finding the right person because you're damaged goods or whatever. And it's like, all that stuff makes sense. But then this whole twin flame thing came up. And it's come up a few times, particularly, go figure, in 2012, I think, was the first time that I've heard that specific term. And at that point in time, what I thought I understood of it, I thought my friend Tyler was that for me, because he was somebody that was like hugely important in my life. The problem was I kind of had him on a pedestal and thought that he was like immensely better than me and all this shit. And, when I started feeling like I was supposed to reconnect with him, I couldn't do it because I thought that my sadness would ooze into his life and, drag him down. And I thought he was living his dream. He was, traveling as a drummer in a band and, going on actual tours. I think he was even in a music video for Martina McBride. So, like there were these little things along the way. So it's like, I thought if I tried to reconnect with him, it would contaminate his life with my sadness, and I refuse to do that. I thought I was helping him or being of service to him in some kind of way. But then, I mean, he ended up dying at 34. So it's like, what's the possibility that if I had reconnected with him, maybe he would have made different decisions and that wouldn't have happened. Now, I'm not going to go into his story. It wasn't suicide, but there's just a whole lot that played into it. But it's those things where you get into various addictions. Like, I had a real big food addiction, and drinking the soda that's terrible for you and all that shit. And when I got back to Indy and was going through my divorce, like, I think got to my all-time high weight, and I hated taking pictures. My grandfather's 80th birthday party, there's a picture of me, and I just look at it, it's like, oh man. And it's just, the various things that happen that lead you into the situations where you get stuck on things or whatever, and get on the downward spiral that you feel like you can't get out of or off of. So yeah, a lot of that kind of stuff. But it's like, this was always the path that I was meant. The heat's on now, so it's warm air coming out of this vent. Yeah, but it's like, this is always the path that I was meant for. So even the downward spiral things were meant for me to show me that they weren't meant for me, but I still had to live through them, go through the experiences, and now make the connections to be able to piece that together. So yeah. I feel like today's video is going to be much more coherent than the rest of this week. Oh, that makes me happy. Yeah. Oh, the Leo Venus thing. So the twin flame thing came up in 2012. And then I thought it was one of those where it was just kind of a destined to be an unrequited love or whatever. Something that was meant for anybody but me, because I believed so badly about myself that something that could potentially end in happiness must not be for me. And that's legitimately what I believed of myself. And I've realized with these subconscious Cancer placements, that takes on all this stuff, going back to that pattern app that talks about how, for somebody with my pattern, it's between 40 and 41 that they start being able to make sense of who they are in the world and not just take on all the projections of friends and family members and the world around them and all that stuff. It's like, see, that makes perfect sense. But all the time I was living through it, I didn't know what I was doing. I just always knew that, like, okay, if I felt somebody's pain, I thought it meant that I was responsible for fixing it because I could feel it and I could understand why it was there. But that's not what it means. And that's what it took me a long time to really come to terms with. It is not my responsibility to fix anything for them. They have to do it themselves. But since I have my own journey that, I'm very open about the good, the bad, and the ugly, I feel like putting that out there as an example is kind of the point, because, it goes to show that, hey, shit can suck really bad, but it is possible to get through it, and it is possible to have a better life on the other side of it, right? And it's really been about coming to terms with that for myself. So anyway, this whole Leo thing, my Leo Venus, So then I had that thing that I stumbled upon a few years ago that said to really be happy in a relationship, find somebody whose sun sign is your Venus sign. So then, as I was thinking, since that came across my path, that must be relevant for me, right? And basically, there's my collecting data kind of things. So when it was brought to my attention who the twin flame is, oh, he's a Leo. Yeah. And I've had to realize that it's like I always felt completely shut off from my heart because I wasn't trusting myself, but it's like the things that I've gotten really passionate about and glimpses throughout my lifetime. It's like when my heart's really kicked into gear and yeah, we're doing the thing. It's like when I'm heart led, I step in more into that Leo Venus side of things because, mind you, my career and my love life are, I turned them both over to the universe at the same time because they were both not panning out really well for me. And it's because I'm literally supposed to be writing about this whole journey and what I've had to navigate through, good, bad, and ugly, to get to the other side of this whole hot mess. And it's a whole hot mess. I'm perfectly okay with saying that. And this air is cold on my butt now that I've shifted over and leaned against that wall. The hot air went away. Yeah. But it's like, okay, so for the twin flame stuff, little puppy stretching and grunting. For the twin flame stuff, it's like, okay, so that is the heart connection, right? So now that I know that this person is out there and has literally kickstarted my whole, not just kickstarted it kickstarted the whole thing and just kept going in, oh, hey, no mail again, in such a way that I couldn't stop. I watched a Gem Goddess video a little bit ago. She was talking about how she manifested her husband in like 30 days or whatever. It's like just listening to some of the stuff she was talking about. It's like I feel like I've been working on these same things, but the difference is like there'd be exact. Okay, there have been many times I've talked myself out of it. It's like, this is something that I literally cannot talk myself out of anymore because I can see how, I went into that live stream thing. The first one was just kind of cozy. The second one, I commented and he responded and it felt like I had been spotted. And suddenly somebody that shouldn't have been aware of me was aware of me and then I couldn't hide anymore. So it's like, what do I do? What do we do? What do we do? Kind of a thing. And, then I started, he started appearing in dreams as well as like other people that he was in a band with. But he was the one that would show up solo with me in the dreams. It's like, okay, so that's kind of weird because that was completely something that I was not in control of. It was just kind of happening. And then it's like, that's weird. And then, I started really feeling unsafe in my body because it's literally, kind of kickstarted this whole process for me to realize I have all these things I have to heal from before I get into a space where I would be ready to meet the love of my life or whatever. And I can't tell you how many times, like even on this, like I've tried talking myself out of it. Cause like, okay, the first live stream, I think that I felt was really cozy and whatnot. I think that was the one where I made the comment to my friend afterwards of maybe I should manifest one of those. And she said something that was kind of discouraging. And it's like, yeah, you're probably right. He's out of my league anyway, or something like that. Or no, I think that one was, he's a Leo. My ex was a Leo. That didn't go well. So it's like, that was enough. Somebody else just made a discouraging comment about it when I put this thought out there, and I was just like, yeah, you're probably right. So rather than listening to, everything in me that, I have this random thing I throw out there about maybe I should manifest one of those, and then it's like, yeah, that's probably not for me. But it's like the sheer fact that I thought this thing was not for me. It's like, looking back at it, I can see like all these just energetic doors just slamming shut because I wasn't ready to be open to this idea of this magical connection, right? And it was not until I finally committed the love and career to the universe to lead that then stuff really started making sense. So then, if you remember, I posed this out there at 40. I go and get the lip ring and the nose ring, say I will never again work another job that asks me to be anything less than 100% who I am. And then the job that I was working, which was a car manufacturing plant, lots of things came up, and basically I got jostled right out of that one. And when I was trying to, there was this one day that was really rough. I walked in, I had just started being able to, well, I don't think just started. I was working by myself on this one process that it was before the changeover had happened. Like the rest of the shift before us had changed over the parts for another car to be worked on, right? I was in the welding department. So we go from one make to the next. And most of the other processes, all the earlier ones, were mainly like you had multiple people working on them, so you could have a couple different people that were switching out the parts. This one was the very last one, and so when everything else had changed over, this was still running the last few parts before the changeover, and I got there by myself to change over the stuff that I'd never done a changeover by myself, and I was really nervous, and especially on that one. And honestly, I shouldn't have been nervous about it because I knew there were people nearby that would automatically come over to help so that the process went a little faster, and then we could get to loading the parts for the next vehicle, right? But whatever reason that day, it's like everything was just like feeding into my anxiety, and like I was really stressed out at the idea of having to change this stuff over by myself because I didn't know how to do it. And then there was this group of like operators that came over and were just, I don't even know what their whole deal was, but the alarms kept going off. I was super stressed out. It was really awful. And the next process I ended up with, I was talking to this guy who was one of the guys that I liked him probably. He was one of my favorites there. He just had a really cool, laid back, low key personality, easy to get along with, not judgy or anything like that, just real easy to work with and get along with and everything. And I just liked his energy. And we were working together on the next process. And I looked at him and he asked me something, and I looked at him and I said, I don't think I'm supposed to be here. I said, I think it's time for me to wrap this up and to go into what I'm supposed to be doing. And he's like, and what's that? And it's like, well, I know I'm supposed to be writing. And I said, maybe it's time to focus on that. I said, but I know I'm not supposed to be here. And he's like, well, that's really cool. And, he was really encouraging of it, and the next guy I talked to on another one, it's like, he was really encouraging about it too. And it's like, okay, then I felt like I needed to connect with the floor manager, and ended up, when I came back from lunch, I took over for him. So he was just conveniently lined up on the process that I was going back to, or he was there and was asking me how everything was going because I was still relatively new. And I was like, look, I don't think I'm supposed to be here anymore. I think I'm supposed to go focus on what I meant to be doing. And he was really encouraging of it as well. It's like, this is too easy. It's like all these things are like, yeah, you should get the hell up out of here. You know, and he said he hated to lose good workers, but he loved to see people do the thing that they were meant to be doing and, you know, step into their happiness or whatever. He said, so he said, just let me know. He said, whenever your last day is. And I said, maybe Friday. I said, maybe Monday. And he said, okay. He said, just let me know for sure. And so I worked that Friday also. Okay. It got kind of weird before then because everything, okay, except for the guy that trained me, he was really pissed because I was the first person that he trained, and he liked working with me, and I understood what he was telling me, and if I had any questions, you know, we got along really well. But he was really pissed because he said all the worthwhile people, all the good workers keep leaving and leaving him with the idiots that don't know what they're doing and don't give a shit if they do it right or whatever. And, you know, he was really frustrated about that. And he had said so for a while. And then I dropped that bomb on him and he was just like, I think Friday did end up being my last day and he wasn't even there. He was just like, nope, done. And I think they said he missed the day before too, because I only worked Mondays and Fridays at that job. But I knew I needed to send a message to the temp agency that I was hired in through. And the next day, like, I was really anxious about doing that. And I delayed it. And then I kept delaying it. And I was just trying to avoid it. And I ended up, I was with my aunt that day, went to the gas station for the shitty beverages. And she said something about a dead hawk across the road from her house. Of course, the aunt whose house I'm currently in. And she said something about it, and I was like, what dead hawk? And she said there was a hawk that apparently got hit by a truck that morning, was still in the road, and she said she felt bad about it being there and all this stuff. And it's like, I said, you know how I am about hawks. I said, we gotta get it and bury it. And so we got back to my house. I found like some gloves and a box. It was just a box to put it from like the road to wherever we ended up burying it. We ended up burying it behind her shed. Yeah, but we went out there. I had the gloves, and conveniently at that time, it's like there was no traffic on this road. And I don't know if you've been hearing the cars drive by on this road. This is a busy ass road. And it was before they really got to the nearby construction. I think they were still at the roundabout to the next crossroads. And well, I mean, that would be part of the reason to slow down, but yeah. But I went out there and I got the thing, and my grandpa showed up on his golf cart and was like, what are you doing? And just throw it in the trash. It's dead. And it's like, get out of my way. It's like, you don't need to be here. Go away, right? Sorry. Messed Daisy up. But yeah, like, definitely a hawk. Yeah. Anyway, so we just ignored my grandpa and we did what we were going to do. My aunt was kind of the same way I was. She didn't like leaving it there, and she couldn't stand the thought of just throwing it in the trash either. It's like, no, that is not what we're doing, especially for something like a hawk. You know, I love hawks. They are important. How many times have I said hawks are very important? You know, and I frequently talk about like the weird things that are happening with the random hawks that show up when I'm doing a video and suddenly soar through the, like, next to me. And yeah. And I've gotten some really cool pictures of some hawks in the past few years. So, yeah. But when we took it behind her shed and I buried it, and I had this thought, it's like, that has to mean something. So I looked it up, and like the symbolism of a dead hawk, and like the first thing that popped up said, "You're not trusting yourself." It's like, oh, you got that, huh? So, yeah. It's like, all right, message read, loud and clear, got it. So, buried the hawk, and later that evening I decided I was going to wait until, second shift came on. I wasn't going to be there anyway, but I was just texting, the guys that would have been in charge of me, and let them know that Friday was my last day. And the one guy I sent the message to was like, "Oh, can I ask you why?" And it's like, "Yeah, why not? Everybody else has," and I told him that I said I was thankful for the opportunity, but I felt like it was just time for me to focus on what I was meant to be focusing on. And I said, I took the job at a time I was struggling to make the writing a habit, but ever since I'd taken it, I had made it a bit of a habit, which of course that's been hit and miss. I have made the journaling part of it a routine thing. The other stuff was kind of hit and miss. And my parents are leaving my grandma's house, and as long as they're not coming here. No, there they go. Okay. They shouldn't, but yeah. Can literally pull out of my grandma's house and go into our driveway. Yeah. But it's like, clearly that was a message for me. There's no doubt that was a message. And then it gave me the kick in the butt that I needed to say, yep, I'm not going to be doing this anymore. Friday's my last day. And it was fine. It still had other issues because I still had to contend with the point of I was living at home and suddenly not going to work anymore. And that conversation, oh my God, I drug my feet so bad on that because I did not want to have that conversation. So then on Monday, when I would have been leaving for work, I was outside playing ball with Gidge. And my mom obviously noticed. And I don't remember exactly what happened, but they ended up basically coercing me into going somewhere with them in my dad's truck. And I was like real dodgy. It's like, I don't want to answer these questions. I don't feel like I should have to. Mind you, I was 40. It's like, I'm 40 years old. Why do we got to answer to you? It's like, this is bullshit. But then that too was a necessary part of the realizing that, my brother and I have had all this, hypervigilance ultimately about not wanting to deal with things and include our parents in the process because of how they make us feel when we've had to face things. And it's like, as a 40-year-old adult, I should be able to make a decision to not go to this job anymore because I feel like I'm supposed to be getting my, my shit together and lining up with the path I'm supposed to be on. And that goes right in there. That was around the time that my aunt and uncle ended up with an extra ticket to the Colts football game and asked me if I wanted to go because, hey, there's only one of me and they only had one ticket. So I went with them and had this whole conversation with my mom's youngest sister, and she was like, at some point you have to live your own life. It's like, I would love to, but I don't know how to. It's largely been me trying to figure that out. And I think the nice thing is, that aunt with her routine church attendance and all that stuff, I'm pretty sure she's probably prayed for me on that end before. So I consider that a help. Because prayer, whatever you're praying to, I think it does work. But yeah, it's been a whole freaking journey. And then just like a lot of the stuff that I've made the connections with on my parents along the way. I think back in June, I hit the point where I was like, I don't think I want them to come to a wedding that I would have. I think I would, at the time it was like, I don't think I want anybody that was at the first one, at the second one. And now it's more like, I think I don't want anybody that's out of alignment with my happiness to be there to try to pull me into their unhappiness. Like my mom's really fixated on this thing with my dad's, I think the second sister, as in the second in line of the kids, second to him. She apparently has some kind of mass in her stomach that is the size of a cantaloupe now. And my mom's just been running her mouth nonstop about, if you have pain, you're supposed to get it checked out. And I don't know why she wouldn't do this, and talking just all this, basically trying to pull people into that negativity. It's like, I get it. I mean, I totally get that that's a serious thing. But I also get that it is critical for me to keep my my focus on higher things so I don't get pulled back into the drama. And today she was trying to show me this conversation chain with them and all this stuff. See, and night before last, she had talked about it, and we were talking about something else, and she said my dad wanted to get a puppy. And I was like, oh, please, not before I leave. It's like, I really want to be out of here before that happens. And of course she doesn't know that I am thinking actively about trying to get the heck up out of there. She doesn't know that my brother and I have talked about both of us potentially leaving the area or anything like that. But she said he had gotten to looking on Facebook and sent her a picture of a puppy. And she went to find me the picture of the puppy that he had sent to her. And got distracted, because that's what she does, and instead shows me the picture of this mass in my aunt's stomach. And I was like, that's not a puppy. And she's like, oh yeah. But it's just that keep me in the negativity. And it's like, because of all my water placements that my hidden water placements for a long time, it's like I was always getting sucked right back into that negativity. It's like that whole energetic dumping ground piece. It's like, oh, drag me into your bullshit so I can't ever do anything better for myself and manifest my own happiness. Keep me in the sadness, right? No, not at all. But anyway, she did get the picture of the puppy, and I looked at it, and it's like, that's not real. Like, my first thought was, that's AI. And I was looking at it, and I said, either that is an AI dog, or that is a very bad breeder. She's like, why do you say that? I said, look at its eyes. And it had like, one in a normal placement and the other was like an inch lower. And she said, well, but it's got its head cocked. It's like, it's not cocked that much. I said, there is something wrong with that, whether it is AI or what the hell's the word? I just lost it, and I'm pretty sure I just said it. Or it's got something wrong with it, whatever. I said, that's not real. I said, do not let him do that. And it was like supposedly a breeder in Wisconsin that wanted $700 out of this dog. It's like, that is a scam. Because if it is a breeder, that is a very unhealthy looking dog. And I said, even look at the feet. Like, the feet were really weird looking. It's like, that is not right. And she was like, well, I'll tell him you said that. I don't know if she ever did or not, because it never came back up. But yeah, I was like, don't do that. And she said she told him that if they got another one, they would be wiser to stick with the rescue anyway. And it's like, yes, do that and do a local rescue. I said, but still be mindful of the fact that, the lady with the rescue in town, which was where I ended up getting Doogie from, a while back, she got her rescue account hacked into, and they were trying to scam people out of a whole lot of money, and they were only posting puppies, and it was constant. It's like anybody that knew that lady would have known that was not stuff she was posting. Like, these were healthy, happy looking puppies most of the time. Any puppies she showed in hers, yeah, I mean, they were probably healthy, but they were also background. Like, they were in the building over there or in the yards they had for them, and these were just like somebody took their puppies to have professional pictures done. I mean, which I know, okay, the rescue they got Holly through, since it was breed specific, I think they did do something like that, but I think they also had other pictures of the dogs as well. And it was a local one that they could actually go visit the puppy at, which is important. But yeah, it's like, that's a whole lot of wrong. And I think the other thing was, she said it was in Wisconsin, which that just so happened to be where my mom's cousin, who's also into Shelties, got their most recent one from. And I mean, that was kind of a weird thing because I think my mom was always close with that line of cousins. Like my grandma's sisters, that sister's kids specifically were okay. The oldest sister's kids, there's a whole lot of problems there. So it's just like, we avoid them like the plague, and we don't own up to being related to them if we can avoid it. That kind of a thing. But with this guy, when I felt that we really reconnected, okay, I've talked about how my dog Chip was had to be put down when I was 8, and that was one of my traumatic events that sent this whole other shitstorm, or like, it was like, I think the second of the big traumatic events, the second focused traumatic event. Aside from that, like my grandparents, when they moved up here, it's like a whole bunch of stuff came with that, that ended up playing into it. But that was like one of my traumatic events that was like really set me into confusion when I was 8, right? So Chip had to be put down, and then we went looking for a puppy, and since my dad had always loved Shelties, they wanted a Sheltie puppy, so that's what we were looking for. So we had this night, we were going to I think we might have gone to a couple different breeders. What he was looking for, just his dream dog, right? And he eventually found her with this one breeder. Well, come to find out that my mom's cousin had gotten another puppy, like one from that same litter. So that kind of started this whole bonding connection, because my mom's cousin's family, well, him and his wife at the time, I mean, they're still together, but now they have a kid. They didn't have the kid back then. But they were into Shelties and had gotten our dog Tracy's sister, and her name was Brandy. So that was like a real reconnecting point on that family group. But yeah, that's kind of irrelevant. I think it was just the the one thing that sent me down that path. So yeah, the AI scam dog that sent me into that. Anyway, I think this is long enough for a video, and I need to get this puppy back over to her big dog friends so she can run amok, I guess. I think we're gonna go walking. We had to skip that yesterday because yesterday my car said it was 25 degrees. And it said that again later, but it's like, it did not feel like no 25 degrees. Well, when I looked at my phone, the app on my phone, it said, I think it said 24 with a real feel of 2. It's like, yeah, that's more like it. That is not something I'm walking the dogs in. But today I think we're back to normal, and I think both real feel and actual temperature are right around 28 to 30. So we can walk, even if it's not a big walk, but we will go walk. But we need to go do that. So, as always, I appreciate you, and until the next time, see ya.